Howdy, San Diego. Welcome to another episode of Wrangling Minds. I'm Xavier Zamarron.
I'm Brian Landeros.
And today's topic is going to be, how do you get ready to buy a house, or what are some steps that you may take to set yourself up for success?
Yep, right off the bat, I think it's a hot topic right now heading into the summer. And I believe the first step, bro, is going to be realistically, look at your finance and budget what you actually make. One of the misconceptions is that people get pre-approved based off their gross income and not their net income. So you have to really count out all your, what's coming in, what's coming out, and then don't assume anything just because you think that you can't get approved, or you think you don't have good credit, or you think you have too much debt. Sometimes that isn't the case. Don't assume, don't take anybody else's case for your situation. What I encourage people to do right now is, if you have the desire to want to buy, if you have the idea of wanting to buy sometime in your life, right now is the perfect time to take your stabs at it. Go out there and see what it looks like for you, because it's apparent that what we're seeing right now is the people that are getting ready are buying houses not necessarily in that same weeks, that same month, but 3 to 6 months out. So if you know this information, getting ahead of the ball and getting your finances in order, knowing what you're approved for, knowing what your money out, money in is going to be looking like in the summer is going to give you a way better chance of getting your offers approved and getting something that benefits your choices, rather than, struggling to find something that, isn't really what you're looking for.
I couldn't agree more, especially when you hit the topic, don't take other people's, situation for your own. Just because I hear a lot, in between my own clients, for example, I have one client who called me at 9:00 at night and is like, hey, I was talking to one of my friends and they said that they were able to do this. I'm like, although that's true, your situation is a little bit different. Since we're using the DPA program, we're kind of tied to certain things of what we can and can't do. And I feel like there's a lot of misinformation and misguidance, and it's normal. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like when it comes down to, if you're on the verge of wanting to get pre-approved, or at least trying to see where you're at, your situation may be different from your friend, your mom, your dad, everybody else. Take it for your own. And whatever you get from that pre-approval, whatever you take from it, whether if it's where you want to be or where you don't want to be, if you don't want to be there, then take from it, okay, especially with a good lender, what can I do?
Yeah, and I think that's the big obstacle to get over, that you're afraid of what they're going to really tell you. I mean, I know sometimes when you have to go to the doctor, you get a little nervous because you're like, what are they going to tell me? Always. But you know that they have the answer. They're going to ask you these questions that is going to let them know, what's wrong with you, what could be wrong with you. And that's similar to what, the job of your preferred loan officer or the person that's handling your finances should be doing. They're going to take a thorough look at all your aspects of your income, of your debts, of your credit, to be able to really analyze and know where you stand. Now, just because you can afford $1 million doesn't always mean that you should buy for $1 million. And that's one of the things that I really drive home when I'm meeting with clients, that the purchase should be as personal as it gets, because it's your life. You're going to be living in the house. So I feel that, you can afford more, but remember, don't chew more than you can eat, because down the line things could change. So be very mindful of what you're buying, how you're buying it, and if it's aligned with what you are looking to do in the future, So don't sell yourself short and trying to, get into the biggest house, the forever house. Sometimes you need to get in there, use the first property as a catapult to then get to your next property. So there's levels to it.
Amen. And I just really like that. Buy what you can afford, because the last thing, and I hear it a lot, people don't want to be house broke.
No. I think that's also one of the biggest reasons why people are not pulling the trigger, because like I mentioned, you get qualified off your gross, but the client knows what they net, what actually really comes home after, the Uncle Sam gets there and get his cut. So that I think is very crucial in bridging that gap, because even as a loan officer, we see their gross and we're like, yeah, they can afford that. Yeah, they're approved for that. But just keep in mind that just because you're approved for it doesn't mean that you're able to, comfortably make the payment at your max approval.
Yes. And I feel like that is super important to take into consideration, just because, depending on your lifestyle, you might be renting an apartment, but you have the ability to go travel, do things you want to do.
Yes.
And if you bite more than what you can chew, then you're not going to be able to do those things. So I agree with you. And I also do tell my clients, like, hey, think of where you want to be at. Like, really think about it, because this is going to be probably the biggest debt you're going to be taking on in your whole entire life. And I don't tell them like, oh, it's bad debt. It's actually good debt.
Yeah.
Good debt. Unless,
you turn it into bad debt.
Yeah.
No, and it's funny because somebody asked me the other day, hey, what do you do for work? Oh, I get people in the biggest debt of their life with a smile. And what I mean by that is that I help people understand why they're buying the house and what it means for them. And once they're able to understand what the house means for them, they really are able to solidify, what purchase price they want to buy at, because they align all their goals, all their wants, and all their needs together in a way that's going to let them, get from point A to point B without breaking the bank or without, having to make some crazy sacrifices. I'm not saying that you don't have to make sacrifices. There is sacrifices, and that's in everything that you do in life. Oh, yeah. But one of the things that I did want to touch subject on is, who should be buying houses right now? And you mentioned, if you like living a life where you like going out, you like experiencing things like, vacations, concerts, events, and different things like that. And, right now, I'd say it's not the most affordable time to buy for certain people. Mm-hmm. And if that's something that you value more over your living current situation, then you definitely shouldn't be buying. Because I know a lot of buddies that are relatively in the age of anywhere between 23 to say 32, where they have a good job, they have a good enough savings, but they're so inclined to wanting to continue to live the life that they're in, which is nothing wrong to them. They like to be able to go out whenever they want to, take vacation whenever they please, and go out to eat whenever they want to, and then that's okay. Maybe that's not the right time to buy for you. It's not the season that you should be buying. But whose season I do feel it is time for you to buy? Military couple that, is having a baby, military couple that has multiple kids that are growing, yes, that are still living in military housing, that are still renting when they have a BAH, a BAS that can allow for them to be able to pay a mortgage payment here in San Diego comfortably and then some. And then if they're dual military, meaning that the wife's also active, the husband also active, and they both share that dual military income, you're setting yourself up in a really good position if you're planning to buy here in San Diego. And even if you're afraid to do so, definitely reach out to Xavier, because he's the one that actually has been in your situation. He's been in your position. And I feel that it's almost easier to understand through experiences of others than you going through it yourself. So the conversation is easy to get going. It's just taking that initial step of reaching out.
No, yeah, it's certainly the best time for military buyers, just because there's a lot of inventory, not a lot of competition, and they're already a step ahead than, your normal day-to-day person, because they have access to the VA home loan. And I feel like the military isn't as educated enough as they should be to the VA home loan, like what it entails, what you can do with it, what you can buy with it, stuff like that. And I feel like having the VA home loan, you could really leverage it to buy your first house and then grow from there. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned earlier, there's levels to it. If you could afford with your VA home loan a condo, perfect. In the next 4 or 6 years, you're going to be able to afford a house. Yep. Maybe even sooner, depending on how the market is.
Yeah. So I had a buddy that just got out of the military. He was in the Marines, and he was taking a job with the city of Chula Vista to be a police officer. And he didn't have, that strong income just yet, but he's like, I want to buy a house. I've been back and forth from deployment, and I feel like it's time for me to, like set my roots, right? But he knew in the back of his head that he was only buying this property as a placeholder for the next move that he was going to make. That was about 2 years ago, back in 2022 he purchased. But now his mentality and everything that he's been accumulating as far as what he's been, learning, he's like, hey, now I want to take on a multi-unit property. How do I leverage the property that I have currently to then, either rent that out, sell it, or still be able to use my VA to get, a duplex or a triplex or something that I'm able to leverage other units to pay for my mortgage or to subsidize some of my monthly payments. And that's one of the things that I said, that's exactly how you should be utilizing your VA loan if you want to create a legacy and an exit strategy for yourself so that you don't have to be working for the rest of your life.
Amen.
And only the military has that ability. No other people can. And unfortunately, like I don't, but VA does. And I think it's such an untapped and unused, finance.
Yeah, we have a saying in the military: if you don't use it, you lose it. Just like training, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't practice it, you don't remember. And
the crazy thing is with the VA loan, you don't lose it.
Yeah,
you don't lose it.
You don't lose it.
But you're just not going to use it.
Exactly. And at that point, I mean, it feels like you sense have lost it. It's like, I just wish people were like a little bit more eager to like reach out,
I believe they are. I think sometimes I look at myself too as like, dude, I see a marketing ad and I'm like, I kind of want to, what's that about,
Yeah.
And it isn't over time that I continually see that I'm like, all right, let me click on it. And then I click on it, read a little bit, but then I get out. And then it still comes around, and then I click it and I read a little bit more. So I think it's just, the more curiosity, the more information that we're able to provide, people at their own time start connecting dots and lights are going off in their head. But I feel that, as professionals, it's our job to continuously show up.
Oh, yeah.
Because whether, they need us now, they need us 5 years down the line, or shoot, they don't need us at all, bro, people are watching. And I think if you're just able to be a good person and send out good information, it's valuable, and people take that for value.
100%. And that's part of the reason why I try to reach out to as many, military leaders I know from my previous service, is to try to schedule VA home loan classes for the Marines.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, and for my military leaders who are here in San Diego, Camp Pendleton, 29 Palms, please feel free to reach out. But I always tell them, like, listen, there's no promotion. There's no talking about me trying to sell you something. No, it's pure information for your Marines and maybe even your leaders around you, because I've gone through it and I've seen it. Not a lot of leaders know anything about the VA home loan.
And that's a common trend I've heard.
Yeah. And it kind of sucks, because in the Marine Corps, as leaders, our main mission is to be the best version of ourselves for our Marines. 100% selfless. And if we're able to get in there, teach Marines, whether if it's a PFC, Lance Corporal, later on down the line, when they're ready to purchase, they're going to be set, because you as a leader provided those tools for them. And I always tell them, when they always ask me like, oh, what's in it for you? I'm like, nothing. If they want to reach out, it's up to the Marines, but I'm not going to sell myself. I'm purely here to provide this information for you guys.
Yeah. And I think that's, a great way to approach it, because I myself don't like to feel like I'm getting sold. I like to feel like I'm buying when I'm ready and when I want to buy. Mm-hmm. So I kind of take that same approach when I'm speaking to people that I'm trying to help, where it's like, okay, well, what do you really want the help? Because some people just don't want the help, and that's okay. Everybody comes at their own time. But people are searching for information, and I feel that if everybody had that opportunity to buy, everybody would be buying.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's something that there is more opportunities to do so than you think. So I think definitely if 2025 is the year that you believe in yourself to be able to make that leap of faith, or you just see what it's looking like, definitely feel free to reach out to either Xavier, myself, or any trusted professional that you feel is going to help you out. Definitely reach out to them. But on the flip side, bro, I wanted to also touch subject on the sellers. So let's not forget about our sellers going into the
forget about them,
because they do definitely move the market. So I want to go ahead and give it up to you, bro. You're out in the trenches. You're out in the field. Give us a little breakdown of what you're seeing and what you expect for the summer.
Out in the boonies, we are seeing out in the jungle, Vietnam, we are seeing this. No. Okay, so it's crazy because I just emailed all of my sellers yesterday. Kind of explaining like, hey, if you're still thinking about selling or on the verge of selling, like historically and statistically, we've seen a huge market change.
Yeah.
What do I mean by that? What I mean by huge market change is now the real estate market is like a seasonal market now.
Yeah.
Where beginning of the year, good time to sell because people, their New Year's resolution is, I want to buy a house, new year, new me, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then we start to see a really good season where it's a good time to sell during the summer. And during the summer, kids are out of school.
Yeah.
You got to put yourself in that buyer's mentality. It's like, when is it most convenient for me to make this move, get my kid into the school district I want them in? The summer.
The summer.
So in that email, I hit that, just explaining the seasonal market. And also, like, as soon as fall hits and towards the end of the year, it's kind of like the market's starting to die down because not as many people are looking to buy then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still people looking to buy, but compared to selling your house in the summer, compared to the fall and winter, you're going to get the most traction in the summer.
Yeah. It seems to be that once we pass like the Thanksgiving mark, things start to check out, and even into the early days of November. And what I have seen is that when people are transacting in those later months of the year, it's mostly situational, like people that need to sell because, life circumstances or divorce or things like that, taxes, or end of the year, I need to pay my taxes upcoming year. I'm not going to be able to, so it's very situational. And what we've also seen is that people that list their houses at the end of the year experience a little bit more of a longer time on the market because things slow down, and it's not until the following year where buyers start to de-thaw from the winter and start wanting to see, well, it's the beginning of the year, let's see what comes out. And maybe your house that was listed a month ago back in early December now is looking like, well, why is that house on the market for so long? So it starts to build a little bit more doubt of, what's wrong with that property. And then that in itself could hurt you as far as pricing, because now they can ask for price reductions, more credits, and maybe leverage your listing more than you would like to do so if you're a seller.
Yeah, like I kind of want to hit that time on the market tab. Is it the way I try to explain it is like, the more time on the market, for example, you have an 850 house that you're selling. It's listed for 850. The more time on the market, it's going to go 845, 840. And by the time people are again starting to look, they're going to be looking at the house and be like, like you said, why has it been on market for so long? But people are going to be scared to buy it because they don't know. The what if, the unknown is scary to buyers. And I feel like a great way to combat that is like, anybody will buy anything at a good price.
Yeah, 100% if it's a deal. And then what I've also seen is that, what a good deal for you could be a bad deal for me, but everybody has a different tier of when they're, when the sweet spot for them is. Like, oh, okay, now it's 10% off, I'm jumping in. 20% off, oh, I'm waiting till 40. You're going to be waiting forever.
Like, as a listing agent, I try to find out what the buyer is looking for to see if my seller, we're able to meet somewhere in the middle where they feel like they're getting a deal. They're winning. We're winning. Everybody's winning.
Yeah. No, and one of the things I also have experienced and been seeing with sellers is that a lot of them are pricing to profit the most. And one of the things I wanted to ask before we log off is if for a seller, if a seller sees a property in their neighborhood sell for, let's say, $1 million, they know that their house is worth, let's say, $900,000. Where would you price your house at, or where would you suggest them to price? Because what I've seen right now is that a lot of sellers price high and end up making price improvements that are lower than what they listed originally.
Yeah, so I see that a lot. And the way I explain it is like, listen, I'm not like any other realtor here. I'm going to tell you what your house is really worth, because that $1 million house across the street might not be this $1 million house here.
Thank you.
We got to be real. And my goal is to sell your house. And if I'm not being straight with you, then what justice am I doing to myself? Like I always start off, I'm not to break the ice. I always start off, listen, I'm not going to throw a high in the sky pie offer, like, I'm going to do my research. I'm going to do my due diligence and find the right price for a house in the market. Because if that house sold 3 months ago, it could very well be that 3 months ago, it's not the same market.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But yeah, that's one way I combat, with the pricing of the houses is just reading the market, judging by, okay, what has sold what is currently on and how long have they been sitting, and look at their prices. Because if they listed the price for 1.2 and it's been sitting for 60 days, we're looking at maybe 1.1, maybe even $1 million.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah. So it sounds like you let the client know what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And you're very stern with the way that you're going to, let them know that, hey, you believe that it's one price, but based on the research and the honest numbers that we've been able to pull, this is the value that we're coming in with.
Oh yeah.
One of the things they won't like to hear that I feel is, something that they do need to hear is that just because you price low doesn't mean you don't have room to go higher.
Yep.
And I've seen it more often that if you price a little bit lower than what, houses in your market or in your area are selling for, chances are you're going to get a lot of eyes and more competition because people see, hey, that house is a little bit lower than all the ones in the same area that I'm looking at. Whoa, okay, why? And then they go all to that one, and then you control how much people and what price range you want.
100%. And that's where leveraging one of the programs I offer to my clients, partnered with Flip My Home Pros, is where it comes in. It's like, hey, that house across the street, it's listed for 1.25 million and it's fully remodeled, but we could have either the same product or a better product for your house, list it lower than what the market is at, and your house is going to sell like that. It's going to have more attention to it because they're going to look at it, okay, why is this house 1.25 but this one's only 1.175 and it actually looks better? I'm going to go see this one.
100%.
And the more eyes you get, the more traction, you possibly might be selling for higher than what you listed it for.
Opportunities are out there, guys. Xavier, thank you so much for sharing that, man. I really feel that program this summer is huge. So if you're looking to add value to your property without having to come out any money out of pocket, definitely reach out to Xavier. Xavier, thank you so much for this, bro. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. It's always a pleasure, and see you guys next time. If you guys didn't notice the flag in the back, Semper Fidelis.
See you guys.